Hey guys, Jen Engel here with a time to stamp video featuring Viva Las Vegas stamps. I'm starting out on a piece of, or a canvas panel rather. It's about 5 by 7 and I'm just gonna use some collage page mat and collage some vintage papers in the background. I have vintage ledger papers and different kinds of vintage ephemera that I'm just sticking in there. And then once that's completely dry, I'm going to add a little bit of the Dina Wakley white acrylic paint and a little bit of golden Titan Buff, which is a really nice like tan color. And mine has a hole in it, so it's like a little globby. So I just sprayed a little bit of water on my piece just to make that globby paint more movable. And I'm just going to blend those two colors together until I'm happy, and I'm trying to keep some of that paper so that you can see it through the background, or through the paint rather. And then once that's dry, I'm going to coat my entire piece with a layer of Encaustic wax. This is beeswax Encaustic medium by R&F, and I'm just using a regular paintbrush and a mini crock pot that I heat up the little beeswax pellets in to let them melt, and then I'm just going to coat my paper, and then I just use my regular heat gun to fuse the beeswax together. You're supposed to like fuse it between each layer by melting it with the heat gun. I really honestly guys don't know what I'm doing with Encaustic. I'm just trying to learn as I go, or teach myself I should say. So yeah, just as long as I'm keeping it inexpensive, which is why I use the crock pot and the paintbrush that I have and the heat gun that I had. I didn't want to buy a whole bunch of new supplies. So back to my piece. I just stamped a few Viva Las Vegas stamps out on some cheapy tissue paper. I have Flock of Geese and Wire Birdcage, and I'm using tissue paper because once you apply the wax on them, they like completely disappear, so it looks like somehow you embedded the stamp in the layers of wax, and it looks really cool. So I'm just going to lay out my composition until I'm happy with the way it looks. And again, I really don't know what I'm doing, so I don't know if there's a better way to stick down these kind of like tissue paper pieces that I want to use, but I just used a layer of my collage page mat to stick them down, and then I'm just going to put wax on top of it. So far it's held up, so I mean, I can't speak for longevity. It's only been a couple weeks since I made it, but yeah, so I'm just going to make sure I have a pretty thin layer underneath and on top of my pieces there. And then I'm going to let that air dry because I don't want to hit it with the heat gun because I don't want it to melt into the wax. And then I'm going to put another layer of wax on top of my pieces. And then I thought I'd better go over the whole thing so that it looks even and not like splotchy. And then I'm going to fuse it again with my heat tool. This is just a regular embossing tool. And honestly, it gets hot enough that it melts the wax. I didn't need to buy one of those expensive like heat gun things. So then I wanted to make some marks in my wax. So I have this ghost spinny wheel thing. It's from like one of those pumpkin carving kits you get at Halloween time. And then I also have just like an old plastic washi tape tube and a paint lid. And I'm also going to scratch some marks in with my pokey tool. And mind you, the wax is not completely hard, but it's not completely soft either. It's like a little pliable, so you do have to be like a little careful about how hard you press the things into it, or if you wait too long you won't get an impression at all. So then I'm going to take some raw umber golden heavy body, and I'm going to put that on my piece, and then I'm going to add some water so that the paint really gets into those cracks. I found out or learned or read that you're not supposed to put acrylic on top of Encaustic. You're supposed to put oil because acrylic and beeswax doesn't mix. But honestly, they're in the cracks and crevices. It doesn't seem to be going anywhere. I did put a layer of wax on top, so I'm hoping it's going to be fine. But you know, I'll keep you posted if it doesn't turn out fine. That's how we learn, right? By doing. So I'm just going to wipe that back. I let it sit for a little bit, and I was pretty happy with the way that looked, but I thought it needed something else. So I grabbed one of these chipboard chipboard words from Wow Studio. I'm just going to melt the wax ever so slightly and then press the word into that wax. I didn't melt it so much that it the wax squished out, but just enough so it kind of held it there. And then I'm just going to use my paintbrush to really work that wax in there so that it really encases that word, because it is a chipboard piece, so it is quite dimensional. But I didn't want it to look like globby and like uneven. So as it's drying, I'm taking a palette knife and I'm just kind of scraping some of that extra wax away so that it looks a little more flat and not bumpy. And I'm really gonna try to get in all those cracks and crevices with my palette knife to just smooth out that wax. And then that wax does not get wasted. Oh no, that goes right back in the pot to melt. So then I'm just gonna fuse it again with my heat tool, completely melt that wax. And I have to say I was pretty happy with the way it turned out. Oh, I melted it to see how it would look if I took enough of that wax away, and I wanted to take back a little more. So I'm just going in a second time with my palette knife to remove some of that excess wax. And then I'm pretty happy with how it looks. So that's it for my piece today, my encaustic piece. Really love the way it turned out. I love the Viva Las Vegas stamps because they're so versatile. I mean, you could make a whole bunch of these kind of stamped encased pieces, and each one could look different depending on the stamps that you used. So links to all the stamps I used will be in the blog post. If you're watching from YouTube, the blog will be linked in the description box down below. If you're watching from the blog, it's up at the top and down at the bottom of the blog post. And yeah, here's some other videos, and thank you so much for watching. Bye bye, guys.